Winter was approaching, and Mau Mau slept with an extra blanket. She was amazed to find a pile of Go books at the entrance of her dormitory. The books were all by the same author, Can La Can. Yao, who had recovered from poisoning, was also curious about the books. Nen, who was preparing dinner, noticed that the books contained diagrams and game records. Mau Mau had received the books from the freak strategist's subordinate, who also left a letter explaining that the books were gifts. Although the strategist was troublesome, the books were well done, and even included an illustration of cats playing Go. Mau Mau decided against burning the books as it wasn't their fault they were written by this particular author. Mau Mau shares her Go book with Nen, who is thrilled by its content. She offers to buy the book for a valuable price, prompting a discussion on its worth. Yao chimes in with her own opinion, making Nen feel uncomfortable. Mau Mau decides to keep the books and plans to sell them for medicine. The conversation shifts to their day off, and Yao insists on going shopping with Mau Mau for medicine and makeup. Mau Mau reveals her fake freckles are a charm to help her grow taller, but hides the true reason. Nen pleads with Mau Mau not to lie to Yao. Mau Mau heads to a shopping district with Yao and Nen to sell some books, but as they walk, the weather turns chilly. To help Yao with her diet, Mau Mau takes them to a restaurant where they're served a delicious meal of sweet potato congee, sticky stewed tofu, and grilled fish seasoned with ginger and garlic. The restaurant owner explains how she makes her dishes flavorful without adding fat or salt. As they eat, Mau Mau thinks about her old friends and wonders how they're doing. Mau Mau and her friends walk to the makeup shop after their meal. The shop was small but beautiful, with paintings of beautiful women and rows of makeup products. Yao wanted to buy powder, but one shelf was empty because it contained a toxic ingredient. The shop owner said some establishments were still selling the toxic powder, despite it being banned. Mau Mau thought that maybe the merchants selling the toxic powder had no other choice to make a living, though she understood why it was banned. Mau Mau examines various powders with Nen and Yao and comes across calomelas. Although containing mercury, it has helped make up sales shortfalls, but should have been regulated. Rice flour and talc appear as great alternatives. Mau Mau tests the powders and finds talc to be the simplest to use. However, she is uneasy about the rice flour's preservative, so the proprietor recommends an exclusively plant-made rice powder. She offers a discount for bringing one's own container and has an excellent track record using it herself. Despite this, Mau Mau still feels uncertain about something. Yao suggests using rice flour powder, but Nen worries about impurities and the difficulty of making it fine. A young woman interrupts their conversation, revealing trouble with a new dealer who insists his product is what they ordered. Mau Mau investigates and finds a jar of the suspect powder. She proposes a test and uses her experienced tongue to confirm that the powder is safe. The baobing flatbread she makes from it turns out decent, but Mau Mau can't resist dreaming about how it could have been even better with more ingredients. Mau Mau defends the powder and suggests that the previous supplier could be the one who added harmful substances to the product. Nen brings umbrellas as precautionary measures for the incoming rain, while Yao expresses her concerns about Mau Mau's eating habits. As the group walks towards the bell tower to finish their shopping, a thunderstorm suddenly strikes, causing Yao to panic while Nen comforts her. Mau Mau thinks about her unsold books as they continue their journey. Jinshi's office is bustling with mountains of paperwork and bureaucrats vying for his attention. Meanwhile, he's dealing with the fallout of a poison attempt on the shrine maiden from Shayo and investigating her staged death. Fortunately, she survived and is living safely with our duo. However, her ordeal has caused tension between Li and Shayo and demands for reduced import duties. In the midst of all this, Jinshi receives an unexpected paper, an announcement for a book written by the Grand Commandant Can La Can himself, detailing his Go game records. Jinshi is surprised to learn of Khan's literary talents, but is intrigued by the prospect of making books more accessible. A dedicated bureaucrat joins the discussion, passionate about Go and Khan's elusive gameplay. Basin, Jinshi's protector, questions whether anyone is truly unbeatable in the game, causing the bureaucrat to defend Khan's skill. Amidst the excitement, Jinshi remains silent. Basan is very strong, and nobody can beat him at shogi. Jinshi gave a bureaucrat some money as compensation for Basan pinioning him. The bureaucrat was honest and didn't want to take it, but Jinshi convinced him to use it to buy books. Everyone in the court started playing Go after reading the strategist's book. Jinshi had received 6 copies of the book from the Apothecary and didn't know what to do with them. He started thinking about how to propose to Mao Mao. Then he received news of a locust outbreak, which could cause 30% of the harvest loss in a grain-producing area. Jinshi was worried about the situation, but didn't want to burden his subordinates. Sei suggested that he delegate some tasks to his subordinates, like other honorable personages do. Basin demands to know who is responsible for the injustice, with Jinshi trying to calm him down. Sei admits that Grand Commandant Khan and even His Majesty the Emperor are involved in it. Basin is shocked to hear that someone is filling in for the Emperor, and Sei explains that it is Master Gao Shun. Jinshi considers the idea, but realizes someone more trustworthy is needed. Basin suggests his older brother Baryu, who passed the civil service exam but hasn't been given an appointment. Baryu, Gao Shun's son, and Basin's older brother, had a talent for literature and bureaucracy instead of swordsmanship. He passed the civil service examination with flying colors on his first try, but still couldn't find a job due to his minimal ability to build relationships. He had unique ideas, and his colleagues and superiors didn't like him, making him the target of resentment that gave him a stomach ailment. Even so, Baryu had all the makings of a superb civil servant, and his personality was somewhat like the members of the La clan, who had a disregard for what others thought. In Jinshi's office, Baryu was working away in a corner of the room with a partitioning screen between his workspace and the entrance to the room. He was quiet and had stooped shoulders, making him appear feeble-looking. While Basin put the finished work on Jinshi's desk, Baryu explained elliptically that his work was done because Jinshi was as beautiful as a sculpted statue. Mame, Baryu, and Basin's older sister interpreted what Baryu had said, clarifying that Jinshi was so beautiful that not even she, who did not like people, could think of him as a human being. Jinshi found Baryu's explanation odd, but he had always been like that. Baryu may have been difficult to handle, but Mame was the only one who could wrangle him. The military had been shrinking due to a lack of wars and for personnel reasons. The Grand Commandant Khan and Grand Marshal Lo were the 2 people who stood at the top of the military hierarchy, and Jinshi was unsure how Grand Commandant Khan had attained that title. Laken was a man who would do anything to get what he wanted, but there were not that many things he wanted. Nevertheless, he was irrepressible in action, and that was what made him such a thorn in the side of those around him. Jinshi ponders the loyalty of Lo towards the Empress Dowager, and wonders if he might find a common ground with him. As the system of slavery is being abolished, the Empress reaches out to those who had become the former Emperor's bedmates and can no longer leave the rear palace. Jinshi's memorandum is stuck in limbo as he's given an honorary Grand Protector title and is overwhelmed with paperwork. Mame interjects, advising Jinshi to keep options open. She discovers a Go tournament being held on palace grounds, but the location meant only a handful could participate. She suggests Jinshi use his office rights to push back if needed. As they conversed, Jinshi realizes Mame understood politics very well, and he finds himself surrounded by strong and intelligent women. Jinshi heeded Mame's advice and visited Lakan to put forward his trump card. To his surprise, Lakan was already aware of his presence, lying on a couch and sipping a gourd. Jinshi pulled out the piece of paper and raised his concerns about the selected venue for the competition, mentioning that there was a better place for the event. Lakan impressed Jinshi with his notorious memory. He became intrigued when Jinshi suggested the Argent Theatre. Jinshi shared his intentions to reopen the theatre and host Lakan's competition there. Lakan seemed convinced, but Jinshi felt a trickle of cold sweat knowing that Lakan was exceptionally good at sniffing out lies. Jinshi proposed his plan to Lakan, who at first seemed hesitant. His aide even looked terrified at Jinshi's provocation. However, Lacan eventually agreed to the plan to hold a Go tournament at the Argent Theatre. A list of medical staff was also suggested by Maame to ensure safety, and Lacan reluctantly agreed. Jinshi was ecstatic as he finally outwitted the eccentric strategist. While leaving, Jinshi noticed a young official with a load of wooden strips, probably from an office that preferred them over paper. Despite being an ordinary civil servant, Jinshi wondered how he could outsmart a genius like Lacan. It was autumn, and Mao Mao and her father were confused by orders from the mysterious Grand Commandant Khan. Dr. Khan was tasked with interrogating 3 brothers, triplets no less, who had been accused of assaulting a woman. They all shared the same family name, and their father was a high-ranking official, adding to the complexity of the situation. Luomen asked Mao Mao to come along and record the interrogation, but she hesitated, not wanting to attract the attention of the freak strategist. However, she eventually agreed to help and met Lihaku, who had been assigned to protect the interrogators. Lihaku didn't know the brothers well, but described them as clever scoundrels, who were identical in looks, voice, and possibly personality. The investigation was a tricky one, with the 3 men denying any wrongdoing and the woman not sure which one had attacked her. The team questioned the 3 brothers about the assault case. The eldest brother had a twitchy demeanor, but was cooperative. The middle brother was sarcastic and dismissive. Both claimed their innocence, blaming one of their brothers instead. Meanwhile, Lihaku had informed them that the culprits only targeted sheltered young women and even girls as young as 12. Mao Mao was outraged at the thought of the girls suffering. Their father, Luomen, took note of everything and was ready to nail down the truth. They needed hard evidence to catch the perpetrator, and Luomen trusted his intuition to judge character. The youngest brother enters, Mao Mao's sick of their faces. He's not ill or happy. He quickly tells his story of getting caught in the rain, dropping documents due to thunder. He's done for the day and wants to leave. Exhausted from transcribing, Mao Mao and her father nod together. Dr. Liu gives them a map. Luomen uses ceramic knickknacks to mark out locations related to their investigation. Yao and Anen join in, and they see where the young woman says she was. Mao Mao's father reminds them that they need to ensure this doesn't happen to anyone else. Mao Mao, Yao, and Anen try to solve the mystery of the 3 suspects' alibis. They recall the thunderclaps from 5 days prior and analyze the discrepancies in the testimonies regarding the order of the sounds. With the help of Luomen's questions and the trio's deductions, they figure out that the middle brother is responsible for the assault. They report their findings to Lacan and admire Luomen's impressive deduction skills. Jinshi was eager to ride his own horse, having not been on an excursion for days. His party, including his bodyguards, planned to change horses and drivers at each town to reach the village where crops had been ravaged by insects. He'd been selective about his team, bringing Gao Shun, who filled in for Ba Sen, with him as an aide-de-camp. Concerned about the health of his leaving butler Baryu, Jinshi had borrowed Maame, who seemed to have developed a certain roundness about her since having children. Upon arrival at the village, Jinshi called for Lihaku, a soldier he knew from pretending to be a eunuch, who noted the village's sturdy houses despite the damage caused by the swarm of insects. After valuing Lihaku's service, Jinshi put on his mask and emerged from the carriage to meet with the village headman. Jinshi and his group arrive at the headman's mansion, where they are greeted with a feast, but Gao Shun demands to know about the village's situation. The headman reveals that a massive swarm of grasshoppers had attacked the village, eating everything in sight, including the locals' clothes and skin. Despite their efforts to fight back, the swarm lasted for 3 days and 3 nights, leaving the villagers devastated. Jinshi suspects that chemicals used against the swarm had failed, and discovers that the insects' bellies are swollen with eggs. Knowing that these eggs must be destroyed, Jinshi suggests burning the land to prevent another plague. The group prepares for what comes next. On a cool autumn morning, Mao Mao was stopped by a delivery on her way to work at the medical office. Inside was a basket full of dead grasshoppers. Forced to find a place for them, Dr. Liu offered her a room in the next building. Mao Mao enlisted Yao's help with measuring the bug's weight, while Enen observed with admiration. Despite Yao's fear, she insisted on completing the task, leaving Mao Mao somewhat frustrated with their twisted personalities. As Mao Mao works to measure and record the characteristics of dead grasshoppers, Lahan pays an unexpected visit. Despite the mountain of bugs, Lahan's focus is fixed on the numbers, particularly the ones that Mao Mao had kept hidden from her companions. As Lahan examines her data, he reveals the source of his interest, a mysterious swarm of grasshoppers that have been causing widespread destruction across the land. The conversation takes a serious turn as they speculate about the swarm's origin and possible connections to Hokuaren. Amidst the tension, Lahan hands over a bundle of ginseng, sending Mao Mao into fits of uncontrollable laughter. With her prize in hand, Mao Mao dances with glee, unaware of the growing unease of those around her. Mamei had a simple solution for Jinshi's workload: get other people to do it. She sent all the tasks back to their respective departments, including the issue of the bugs. Jinshi tried passing it off to others before, who claimed they were too busy, but Mamei urged him to push back and use his influence to get the papers off his desk, even if it meant giving tasks to those who were slacking off. Basen and Baryu were there to support Jinshi, but they dared not contradict Mamei. Although highly capable, as a woman she didn't receive any official jobs. Basen noticed many bureaucrats weren't doing their work and were instead playing Go. Jinshi was starting to feel silly for having worked himself sleepless all this time. Basen also noticed a poster advertising a Go tournament. To challenge Grand Commandant Khan, it costed 10 silver pieces. Jinshi saw it as a bargain and a way to gild his reputation. Jinshi returns home and is surprised to find the Emperor waiting for him. They discuss the Emperor's new Empress and her request for a food taster. Jinshi is skeptical, but agrees to consider the candidate. The Emperor also mentions the popularity of grape wine from foreign lands, and Jinshi remembers a package he received as a gift. Jinshi pours himself a drink, but his food tester advises against it. She explains that the cup is likely made of lead, and mixing lead into sour wine makes it sweeter, which can be dangerous. Jinshi realizes the wine might also be fake. Upon discussing it with the Emperor, they suspect the same poison as the face powder is used as a sweetener. Jinshi requests to borrow the Emperor's Go tutor if he wins a game. Mao Mao had just finished a new medicine in her room, which she had constructed from various herbs and mixed with oil and beeswax. When Yao stumbled upon her experiment, she was alarmed to see Mao Mao purposely cut herself to test the medicine's effects. Despite objections, Mao Mao continued to experiment on herself in hopes of developing effective cures. During dinner, Enen's burned pork buns were forgotten as they enjoyed a simple meal. Yao had wanted to speak with Mao Mao earlier, but was too timid to visit without an excuse. Yao takes out a schedule while they eat and sees that there will be a garden party. Enen thinks it's just a cover for presenting the new name holder, Jade, who has been delayed due to a poisoning incident. Yao and Enen discuss the conscription of soldiers out west and express their unease. Yao questions if they can trust the people from the west. Mao Mao doesn't have much information on Empress Gyokuyu's family and hopes she's more than just a tool. Yao expresses a similar sentiment, and Enen worries about her being her uncle's pawn. They continue eating their congee. Empress Gyokuyu and her ladies-in-waiting were preparing for the upcoming garden party, but were concerned about their outfits. They debated the need for accessories that could stand out and impress the other guests. Gyokuyu wished for something more interesting to wear, but lacked options. However, she eventually revealed a set of translucent crystals she had found in her wardrobe. She suggested they be made into hair sticks, which was met with enthusiasm by her ladies-in-waiting. As they worked on their outfits, Hong Niang, the chief lady-in-waiting, reminded the Empress that she needed to find a suitable match for herself, to which Gyokuyu responded with feigned concern for her well-being. Lady Gyokuyu is impressed with herself after giving a motivating speech to her ladies-in-waiting. She advises Hong Niang to stop carrying everything on her own shoulders and think about her own future. Hong Niang agrees, and trying to be helpful, she brings a letter from Lady Gyokuyu's estranged brother. Gyokuyu tries to remain calm and cheerful, reading the respectful letter, despite knowing how much her brother hates her. Gyokuyu remembers her past with her brother and feels happy that she can finally escape from his offspring by being in the rear palace. With their father away, Gyokuyu feared her brother would take over their home as his own. Her brother's desire to rise in the world led to their father requesting an aid from the capital. The Grand Commandant sent his own daughter, a foreign-blooded girl, to be Gyokuyu's niece. Despite the girl's innocence, Gyokuyu tore her portrait to pieces, disgusted by her brother's transparent intention. As snowflakes drifted from the sky, Yao and Mao Mao discussed the upcoming garden party. Unfortunately, Mao Mao was not invited this year. Upon seeing a crowd of officials heading to the toilets, they speculated that it was for the garden party. However, Yao refused to take that route due to a desire to avoid someone among the officials. Back at the medical office, Enin gave Yao a blanket and tea to warm up, while the young doctor on duty was lenient with the staff. Enin also showed Mao Mao a portrait of a persistent suitor, and the young doctor tried to continue conversation with Enin as she and Yao left for the day. Later, the bandages were boiled and dried, and as the garden party continued, Yao and Mao Mao discussed their experiences with it. Mao Mao recalls a chilly garden party where she had to endure cold weather and check the food for poison. She meets soldiers who had vomited due to the awful food served at the party. Mao Mao suspects the soup had too much salt. She and Yao finish their work and decide on chicken and raw fish for dinner. Enin asks Mao Mao to buy vegetables, reminding her that one must work to eat. Mao Mao reminisces about the delicious dinner she had with Enin and Yao, but soon receives a letter from Empress Gyokuyu requesting her presence at the palace. Upon arriving, Gyokuyu shows Mao Mao a silver hairstick that was once a fine piece of work, but has since decayed and lost a decoration. Gyokuyu suspects that it was stolen during the garden party and tasks Mao Mao with finding the culprit. Mao Mao finds herself in the Empress's palace, where Empress Gyokuyu's hairstick has gone missing, and she wants Mao Mao to find the thief. The stick was among some gifts offered to her, which may have meant it was a threat to the Empress. Gyokuyu lives in her own palace with her son, the Crown Prince, but still worries about danger. Mao Mao stays the night in the palace and inspects the hairstick, discovering that it had a salt crystal on it. The Empress was the mastermind behind it, planning to entertain herself at a garden party. However, the crystal could not handle the humidity and would melt, leading to the Empress feeling humiliated. An uncomfortable conversation with Yinghua, who attended the same garden party, reveals important information about the seating arrangement. Mao Mao wonders if someone who had access to the hairsticks took the missing hairstick. The seating arrangement at the party was set for Jokwen's name-giving ceremony and included a banquet close to her palace. The cold food was closer to the kitchen, but the hairstick's disappearance was traced back to the food meant for the seatless. Mao Mao, able to solve the mystery, was hesitant to reveal the truth as it may upset Empress Gyokuyu. During her deliberation, Hakuyu pays her a visit to give her an extra blanket due to the chilly weather. The next morning, Mao Mao has breakfast with old friends and discovers that the other ladies-in-waiting do not eat in the palace. Yinghua and her friends try to persuade Mao Mao to come back to be one of their own, but Mao Mao declines, albeit with a brief moment of excitement for imported medicines. As they chatted, a young woman came in with news that the Empress, Gyokuyu, was asking for Mao Mao. With the three women waving encouragingly, Mao Mao went to see the Empress, who was with her attendants. Mao Mao had figured out what happened with the Empress's hairstick, which had become blemished, and the stone inside disappeared. She believed the hairstick had fallen due to the confusion of changing outfits. Additionally, during the discussion, Mao Mao dissolved a crystal stone the Empress had given her, which turned out to be salt. The Empress explained that she likes to create these salt crystals, and even Mao Mao had made one while working in the Jade Pavilion. Overall, Mao Mao resolved the mystery around the hairstick and salt crystal, impressing the Empress and her attendants with her keen wit. The group discusses the cause of the hair stick's discoloration, and Mao Mao suspects one of the ladies-in-waiting deliberately returned it to the Empress to make her believe she was threatened. After Hakuo accuses her sister Kokuo, they discuss a letter she brought to the Empress, and Mao Mao suggests Jinshi as a suspect, but is dismissed. Hakuo believes the Empress needs to be cautious of her friends and wonders about Gyoku's trustworthiness. Mao Mao is confused, but notes that Gyoku is someone to watch out for. The Empress defends her brother's innocence, but doubts arise as the conversation turns to a potential scheme involving a foreign woman who looks like the Empress. Hakuo urges caution and the importance of trusting those around them to avoid any harm. Mao Mao, uneasy about the situation, finds herself the subject of their attention. Mao Mao was still troubled by what she learned about Empress Gyokuyu's difficult situation, which involved her own older brother and their complicated family relations. She wondered what would happen if the Empress lost the Emperor's affections, or if something happened to the Crown Prince. Despite not being interested in power, Mao Mao understood the need for it to survive. She sighed as she worked in the freezing water, while Ennen tried to prevent Yao's skin from chapping. Mao Mao suddenly remembered Jazgul's eerie drawing and wondered how the shrine maiden from the west was doing under Ah Duo's care. Dr. Liu gave her a cloth-wrapped package to deliver to a public square where a Go tournament was happening. Mao Mao noticed the place was crowded with people of all ages and gender who were interested in various games, food, and merchandise. She spotted Yao and Ennen among the crowd. Yao and Ennen were busy helping out in the medical office when Mao Mao arrived to deliver an errand from Dr. Liu. Although she was annoyed by the extra workload, it was clear that her colleagues were more than happy to help. Yao had even offered to play a game of Go with the contest participants, and Ennen had her eyes set on a teaching game with the Grand Commandant. Despite the bustling atmosphere of the square, Mao Mao couldn't help feeling a sense of dread at the thought of meeting him. Nevertheless, Ennen had convinced her to deliver the message and earn the right to challenge him in a game of Go. With a determined look on her face, Mao Mao made her way towards the theatre. Mamei finished her work and stretched. The Moon Prince's office was far neater now that the mountain of paperwork had been redistributed. Her brother Baryu was the only other person in the room. He gave her a paper concerning Grand Commandant Khan and his Go tournament. Mamei didn't think it was urgent, so they decided to deliver it later. She was surprised that Larkan had actually done the work they had sent back to him. His malleability was likely due to the desire to have his tournament venue approved. The Moon Prince was finally able to take a vacation, the first in months. Baryu was curious as to why Lakan had decided on a Go tournament. He was more of a shogi player. Mamei left to attend to another task, passing through a series of gates to reach the Moon Prince's personal pavilion. Mamei enters the kitchen of the Moon Prince's attendant, Swiren. The snacks look delicious, and Mamei can't resist trying them out herself. As she savors the different treats, she suggests a way to improve them. Swiren offers a 3-day-old snack, which turns out to be still delicious. Mamei enjoys the different flavors and aromas with a smile. Mamei visited Swiren and was offered a taste test of a new treat. She asked if she could take some home for her children, but Swiren refused and offered other treats instead. Mamei asked about the Moon Prince, who was studying with his tutor and not at the Go tournament. Swiren then offered Mamei a position as the Moon Prince's lady-in-waiting, but she declined due to caring for her children. Swiren wrapped up some treats for Mamei to take home, and she left with a smile on her face. Mao Mao yearned to go home. Stirring a mixture of honey, ginger, and tangerine juice for the Go tournament, she fumed at being stuck there. Yao and Ennen were enjoying themselves, but Mao Mao seethed, assigned there by her father to work the tournament. A freak strategist played multiple opponents at once, glancing occasionally at Mao Mao. Yao asked for more tangerines, and Mao Mao wished she could switch places with them. Snacks were being sold for the entry fee that incorporated sweet potato, a rarity, which Mao Mao deduced was the strategist's way of spreading them around. People were getting sick from focusing too intensely, cheating, or falling over. Mao Mao's old man had a soft spot for the freak strategist and asked her to afford him some time to sleep to improve his judgment. Mao Mao fretted over her old man's bad knee and wished for salt with her mooncake. Mao Mao suspects foul play in the Go tournament, as the entry fee is too low for the extravagant prizes. Lahan, the organizer, confirms that a professional player has been admitted. He also reveals that the Go sage is the only one who stands a chance against his father, the strategist Khan Lakan. Lahan had spread rumors that defeating Khan Lakan would grant anyone a wish, attracting many greedy challengers. Jinshi, a masked man who had served Mao Mao before, is also a participant and wins his matches easily. Meanwhile, Mao Mao is annoyed by Lahan's greed and his plans to milk even more money from the participants. Khan Lakan is also suspected of having a sleeping illness, which worries Mao Mao. At the tournament, Lahan contemplates the dilemma of telling paying customers that their desired player may not come. Meanwhile, Mao Mao watches Jinshi play against a skilled opponent. The crowd is drawn in, and eventually, Jinshi reveals his true identity. Mao Mao notes that his opponent seems to have recognized him, causing Jinshi to win his second game. Despite his dirty tactics, Jinshi's victory highlights his strong desire to win. Back at the waiting area, Mao Mao sympathizes with a young competitor who is oblivious to the challenge he will face in his next match against a bright and powerful opponent. Mao Mao observes Jinshi and an opponent playing Go on stage while crowds watch in fascination. The opponent is the same freak she once beat in shogi. Mao Mao wonders why Jinshi would bother playing a teaching game when money could easily solve that problem. Suddenly, Basin's sister Ma Mei arrives with a package of sweet treats made by Lady Swiren. Mao Mao is allowed to try one and is impressed with the flavor. Ma Mei requests that Mao Mao take the treats to Jinshi, who is currently focused on his Go game with the freak and his opponent Lahan. Lahan explains that Jinshi is currently in the lead, but warns that the freak strategist can turn the game around in the middle stage with his innovative plays. Lahan observed that his father's play was slower than usual. Mao Mao didn't care who won, but was curious why Jinshi was even participating. Lahan explained that the other guy was the Go sage, His Majesty's tutor in the game. Mao Mao placed snacks on the Go board, hoping the players wouldn't mistake them for game pieces. The strategist helped himself to Jinshi's food without a second thought. Jinshi called for more snacks, but Mao Mao suspected they would all end up in the strategist's mouth. The crowd cheered, but the game wasn't over. The Moon Prince looked like he might win. Enin explained that Master Lakan self-destructed and needed to make even riskier plays to turn the game around. Mao Mao noticed that the strategist looked lethargic, maybe due to lack of sleep and too much Go playing. She also suspected that the alcohol-infused snacks might have made him a little tipsy. Mao Mao suspected that Jinshi had deliberately planned the situation to trick her into putting snacks near the strategist. Despite not being harmed, she was annoyed at being used. She questioned Jinshi's motivations, wondering why he was so desperate to win and what made him drag so many people into his scheme. Meanwhile, a self-important man burst into the theatre, bringing with him two faces Mao Mao recognized from a previous investigation. The man revealed two human fingers, blaming Luomen for his missing son and threatening him with consequences if he does not find him. The crowd erupted into screams. The father of the notorious triplets, Bowen, arrived enraged and disrupted the game, causing the competitors to abandon it. His sons had accused their middle brother of assault, but he had gone missing for 3 days. Then a package arrived containing the fingers of a grown man, believed to be the absent second son. The game was postponed as the situation was investigated. Mao Mao and her friends served tea and juice to the group, while Jinshi contemplated his next move. Mao Mao is at a tournament with Enin and Yao. Lahan is busy wrapping up the event and dealing with scheduling teaching games with the strategist, much to the annoyance of those who have already paid. Enin hands out drinks, but when she offers one to Bowen's eldest son, the cup is sent flying. Mao Mao hands cups to Bowen and his other son, noticing the disappointment on Bowen's face. Luomen stands up, revealing that Bowen's second son has gone missing and suggesting that the eldest son has been pretending to be him all along. Jinshi urges Luomen's apprentice, Mao Mao, to explain her findings, and she points to the discolored fingernails on the dead man's hand, indicating poisoning from arsenic or lead, which could sweeten wine. Mao Mao speculates that the bad wine that couldn't be sold was mixed with the poisonous substance to make it sweet. Mao Mao confronts the triplets about their involvement in their own brother's death. After putting together clues, she accuses them of killing their sibling in order to cover up their sins. The two remaining brothers squabble and blame each other for the murder, but it is clear that they both had a hand in it. The eldest brother had been unwell and drinking the poisoned wine, which caused him to behave erratically. When the other two brothers confronted him, a scuffle broke out, and the eldest brother fell and hit his head, resulting in his death. The remaining brothers had then decided to impersonate him to cover up their crime. Bowen, their father, is horrified by their actions, and Mao Mao reveals that the fingers belong to their deceased brother. It's a shocking revelation, but the truth comes out eventually. The siblings needed proof to carry out their plan. They decided to cut off their brother's fingers to make it seem like a threat from someone else. The youngest son went along with it due to family tensions. The truth came out during the confrontation, and it was a reprehensible story. Despite the nobleman's frustration, their plan was interrupted. Jinshi was playing Go with the Emperor's own instructor. He had no chance of beating him, let alone the freak strategist Lei Kan. He was a jack of all trades, gifted but not a genius. His instructor was merciless but motivating. He taught Jinshi a lesson about using messy tactics to win, and a stratagem to tilt the odds in his favor. In a rematch with Lacan, Jinshi used the dirty trick but still lost. He felt pathetic and low, but tried to keep his chin up. Then, Lacan pointed out a move that would have won Jinshi the game. The protagonist watches as the eccentric Master Lacan reflects on his defeat, analyzing the game he lost to the protagonist. Lacan's rare display of interest sparks the interest of the crowd, including the strategist's aide and Lahan, who emphasizes the protagonist's significance. Despite Lacan's reflection on his error, he finds the game enjoyable and intriguing. As he leaves while swinging his bottle, the protagonist is left dumbfounded. Only Lahan remains by the protagonist's side as Basin and the other bodyguards keep the onlookers at bay. Lahan apologizes for not being enough help, and Jinshi feels mocked. Lakan held a Go tournament to find someone who played like Mao Mao's mother, so he could preserve the memories of their past games. Lahan complains about his father's lack of post-game analyses and his preference for alcohol-free snacks. Jinshi receives a gift from Lakan, a Go board with military strategy, and is annoyed that it's not enough to put him in debt. Mame delivers 3 letters for Jinshi, and he wishes he could have Lakan in his debt. Mao Mao receives a discreet letter from Jinshi in the middle of the night, prompting her to wonder what it could be about. She is taken to an unfamiliar place where she is asked to undress and searched for weapons. Inside the room, she is surprised to find not only Jinshi and the Emperor, but also Empress Gyokuyu. She feels out of place and unsure of her role, but a tray with expensive medicinal ingredients catches her attention. Gyokuyu makes a comment about Mao Mao solving a mystery, and Mao Mao wonders how everything will turn out between them. Mao Mao keeps a watchful eye on Gyokuyu, but soon becomes distracted by the assortment of medical goods in the room. Jinshi summons her, and after declining the offer of wine, Jinshi reveals his need for the Emperor to survive for another 20 years, until the Crown Prince is ready to take over. Jinshi presents a golden pearl, gifted with a portrait of a potential match. During a ritual, Jinshi was shot at with an arrow and poisoned. The conversation leaves Mao Mao uneasy as she contemplates the politics at play. Jinshi seeks to leave the royal family and asks the Empress to grant him a name. However, the Emperor becomes enraged and punches Jinshi when he refuses to back down. In an unexpected move, Jinshi then brands himself with the crest of the Empress to show his loyalty and devotion. Mao Mao rushes to treat his burn, and the Emperor is left wondering why Jinshi would reject the opportunity to become Emperor. Jinshi jokes about making another wound on his cheek if he has to stay in the line of succession. Mao Mao panics, but Jinshi assures her he was only joking. Due to Jinshi's new scar, he can no longer let anyone see his body, so he asks Empress Gyokyu if she would relinquish Mao Mao as her serving woman. Jinshi's wound is treated with salve, and he emphasizes the importance of finding a trustworthy wife. Gyokyu has no sympathy for Mao Mao and thinks she's partially to blame. The emperor seems indifferent to the whole situation and asks if Jinshi regrets his choice, to which Jinshi confidently replies that he doesn't. The emperor's eyes show a deep sadness and loneliness. As he leaves to avoid his guard's discomfort from the cold, Gyokyu accompanies him. Mao Mao is left with Jinshi, who still hasn't received full treatment for his wounds. Despite her desire to leave, she stays to finish treating Jinshi, who offers her medicine as a distraction. As Jinshi makes a move toward the inner room, Mao Mao follows. He teases her with suggestive comments, but she holds back her violent thoughts. She almost chokes as Jinshi implies a desire for a favor he never attained. Gyokyu returned to her residence, exhausted and in need of rest. Despite the bizarre events of the day, there was no humor to be found in it, only shock and sympathy for Mao Mao. While part of her envied Mao Mao, she was also reminded of her responsibilities as a mother to 2 children. She set to work, removing her makeup and checking on Hongniang for updates. Gyokyu reflected on the recent events that had transpired, and the burden of negotiating with those who refused to compromise. Her half-brother, Gyokyu, was one such person. Though he believed he was doing the right thing, Gyokyu couldn't help but feel uneasy about his sudden attempts to bring her into his circle. She was willing to accept being viewed as evil, but she could not put her children's future in jeopardy. In a show of defiance, she crushed her brother's letter underfoot, determined to face whatever challenges lay ahead as a changed woman.